figure out technique here. That's not my expertise, so I'm very happy that someone else is helping me. I would like to, Adrian is now behind the camera at the moment, and the last lady, not Arie, but you call it speaking, about sharing, and what... Talking about the community here. Okay. This is the PowerPoint community we're hearing now. Adina and Adrian were just talking. You said, get involved. It's on the screen, so thank you for that one. Adrian was talking about, joining a community, and in what's called Agile nowadays since 1994. Yes, I'm a senior. Yes, I'm old. I'm doing this for a very long time. I think this was Eric mentioning this one. Gray hair as well. But this is how Agile. When I started in 1994, I did rapid application development. I don't know if any one of you has ever worked with rapid application development. That's what I did, and then in 1997 I switched to DSDM. And then in 2001 I found myself in a ski lodge in Salt Lake City with 16 other guys, not trying to find the differences. Normally when you have commercial people, with a focus on what they have, created themselves, they're trying to defend it. They're going to tell other people that they are wrong and what their stuff is better. And what we did over there was trying to find, where we connected and what we shared. That's the word that Adrian used. Instead of where we were different. And the sharing part, first the word Agile, and then we got the manifesto, and then we got the 12 principles of valuable software behind it. So that is about sharing. And sharing is my bridge. I don't know if you use that expression as well. We got the bridge to my presentation today. When I saw the theme of today, how to create a team, first question you have is, what's the team? What's for you a team? Who's in the Agile team? Give me some roles. Who's in the Agile team?
What's a team journal? What's an Agile?
In an Agile team, who will you find? What kind of roles? Scrum Master.
And developers.
Developers.
Team members.
Who are the team members?
Who are?
Yeah, who are the team members?
People that do the work.
Okay. Okay. You said the Scrum Master. But, okay, we have other Agile methods as well. My method is DSDM, the one I use, but we have extreme programming, of course, and we have feature-driven development and adaptive and crystal, and they're all in there. Scrum is very dominant, we know this. So very, very often we see Scrum Masters, but I have learned from the very first rapid application development project I did in 1994 at the Royal Navy in the Netherlands, with the most crucial one. This is what I'm going to talk about today. So this is the flow of my next 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on what we do. A lot of the Agile developments is problem-driven. It evolved from problems. In the late 80s, we had there were at the office of DuPont, a large international chemical company. They had something like rapid iterative product prototyping. And when you make an acronym of it, it's called RIP. It sounds like rest in peace. It's a horrible one, but hey. It's problem-driven, nevertheless. So I will share some observations from the past, some observations from, today. Who of you was in Salt Lake City last year in August? One. Okay. I heard a lot of the same noises coming back from when I was working on the first thing, rapid application development. I was digging into why do we do this. It felt very natural for me. Why do we do this? And okay, observations, solutions. Then at the time, I want to talk some definitions here, because I think sometimes we have different definitions, which is not a problem, but it's nice to know what your definition is when we're talking about something like that. And then I go into the solutions that I see specifically in details. Okay, this is something you can everyone can download the presentation here, I think?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Next slide then. This is written down in the DSDM manual in 1995, page, I think, 3. Because, you know, there was an urge explaining why we do this differently. I'm today talking about change management, ineffective meetings, and that kind of stuff. A lot of time lost, etc. Okay, look at this. I'm not going to read the slide, but there are a couple of, over here for me, very important. I always use metaphors, and one is or an analogy. And the analogy in this about this slide is with my home. I love to cook. I don't call myself an amateur cook, but I love to cook. I put a glass of wine in the kitchen, and I'm happy. When I got into this house, I changed the whole kitchen, and I was there every single moment. You know, they were building all the equipment in there from the design. Then they were constructing the kitchen and testing and things. I was there. It was very important for me. Now the kitchen was maybe something like, at the time, 20,000 euros or something. Not, really, really a lot of money. And then what I noticed is when we buy a car, for instance, we go to the local dealer, we make a test drive, we go there. And when we build systems, and it still happens, then we do it from the brochure, because we have a design and we start building something. And what happens in a situation like this is very important one is the one that says the solution is not accepted by the end user population, by the end user community. Why is this such an important problem in doing our kind of projects, let's say IT driven? Why is it so important? Yeah, I noticed today you're very silent. Yeah, please. Sorry? That's a really important one. When you do, from my perspective, when you do an IT project, you have a very, very clear objective where you're heading. And when you have a brilliant solution and people not using it or not using it the right way, you will never achieve the objectives. So you can see that there is a serious issue in there. Another one is that the first one said the solution doesn't deliver what the business needs. When you do an investment, I think it's good that you deliver what the business needs, right? Those are the problems that were really dominating, and when you saw statistics at the time, it was horrible, the level of projects, the percentage of projects going wrong, over time, over budget, the last bullet here. And this one was done by Gartner. This is a slide, it's from the, I think it's around 1990. And I have a similar slide from early this century, showing the same information. Here's another one. The 47% is delivered and never used. How in the world, now think back, 20,000 euros for a kitchen. Do you think that I'm going to pay for something that's not in there? No way. How in the world is it possible that we deliver stuff and we get paid for something that's just not there? How come? Well, I know the answer. You too. No? No? We have, yes?
Not our money.
You don't know exactly what, the end user doesn't know exactly what he buys.
That's the thing, yeah. When I did this picture, I have a cousin. He is really impressive when you see him. He's like, 2 meters and 3 centimeters and about the same shoulders. And he's an electrician. And I was talking, with him about, what the kitchen should be like, what the, all the equipment that should be in there. And then the next week he came back and he said, "Hey Arie, look at this big table." And we rolled over this big piece of paper. I said, "What do you think?" Now when a guy, 2 meters and 3 centimeters was asking, "What do you think about something that he created, there's only one answer. It looks brilliant. But I said, I haven't got a clue. Because I don't understand, the drawings that electricians make. And I remember being, by the way, at the same chemical company I was just talking about. And I was talking to the head of pension administration, which was a huge department at the time. And she was really upset on a Friday morning. And she had in front of her, 2 piles of paper this big. And she said, can you imagine, Monday morning at 11 o'clock I have a meeting, and then I have to say whether this is right or wrong. She said, next to the fact that it's just too much for me, even if I read 24 hours a day during the weekend, I just don't understand what's in there. So, here's what it happens. And the 47%, that's the nice one, right? Okay, we delivered something but it's never used. But look at the yellow, 29%. It's paid, not delivered. It's a horrible one, right? People do not understand. And the blue percentage is about, we start from a very big design. I've been in projects in the early days of my career, doing 3 years on a development project. And then somewhere in between there was 6 months of designing, and then 11 months of programming, and then 6 months of testing. And never a question asked about the stuff that's in there. This one, who recognize this one? That you start, you think, oh, it's about this size, and then you're doing the project and it starts to grow for some reason. I call it react obese. It starts growing. So the fact that when you go back and you can see that the project runs over time and over budget, we have a natural risk of every project we do. And it's also when you're doing your kitchen, I can tell you, then it will grow. Because you get ideas when you look and you check, and oh, this is a nice one and this is a nice one. But the budget's still the same. At least in my situation it was. And very often clients stick to the same budget as well. Those are causes you can see for the problems on the previous slides. First is no smart objectives. When I do a project, I consider a project to be an investment. And an investment, you need a return. We have the expression in economy that says return on investment. So it's very nice when you put in, like, let's say, €500,000 into a project, that I will get this money back somehow. But then you need to know where you go. And when I talk about SMART objectives, who is familiar with the acronym SMART? Not everyone, I see. When you have the acronym SMART, it says it's very specific, it's very measurable, it's acceptable, it's realistic, and it's traceable in time. You can say you are going to run the marathon, you will do this in 2 hours and 30 minutes. That's very smart. It's specific, it's measurable, it's acceptable, because people have done it in 2 hours and 5 minutes. 2 hours and 30 minutes might, in your case, not be realistic. Maybe you're smoking, not training, or whatever. But you can see it works, and you can follow through time while running. So you need a smart objective to be able, when you're in your project and someone asks you a question, wants something new, something extra, does it add? Because then I can make a true decision. And then I can avoid the problem, building huge chunks of stuff we don't need. When I don't have a smart objective, I also am not able to make a choice. I'm not able to select. One of the things that I do in my projects is selection. At every moment in a project, people can ask for functionality not known yet. No problem. And we'll try to bring it into a sprint or a time box or whatever method you use. But when you do it, when you bring something extra into the project, budget is the same, time is still the same, what do? Then something else needs to go out of the project. So we have to make a choice. We don't make choices. One of the things that I had in a project was doing a project for the administrative information behind a broadband network, where you have a lot of hubs and routers and cables in the Netherlands, all over the country, and behind every part of this network there's a customer. And the provider of this network didn't have the information at his fingertips at that time. So when something went wrong, let's say a hub or a router failed, he didn't know his client was connected to the hub or the router, he didn't live up to his service level agreement, and he lost a lot of money. So what we did was make it very specific. He said the amount of money that I lose on an annual basis has to be reduced by 80%. Very, very smart. And then we were in a session with the whole team. I come back to what I consider to be the whole team. The whole team was there. And we had a very complex part we were talking about, how it should work. Then we had a coffee break, and the business analyst who was doing all the questioning in the session, he said to me, Arie, I think when we talk about the chunk of the total solution, this might be up to 25%. Then after the break, we asked, how do you do this at the moment? Because you have to do it at the moment. So there is something available. It's paperwork. Okay, what do you do then? We start reading through the manuals and through all the piles of paper. And yes, we do not live up to the service level agreement. We are too late. So we will get a fine from our customer. Okay, so how often does it happen? Once every 3 months. Doesn't tell me anything. How many cases do you have every 3 months? 10,000 cases every 3 months. So this was one case in 10,000. 4 hours of work. When you put this in the IT solution, when you're going to build this, you use this every 3 months one time. Other cases might happen 900, 800 times every 3 months. There's a lot to gain. This one, the amount of time you win, and we calculated into return on investment 120 years. And when you have a return on investment of 120 years, all of a sudden everyone will understand. This is not something we really need. And then you have the right tools to make a decision. So we have to select. We hardly do any verification. In other words, when we are working as a team, are we aware of that we still live up to these smart objectives? When we add new functionality, when we're working, and when we build, when we program, check, double check during a session or a prototyping review or whatever. Do we really get this smart objective? Are we going to achieve this? No end user participation. And now I come back to my kitchen again. I was there not every single moment, every single day. I was there. And here we have a group of, let's say, 250 end users from a single population, a department, in a governmental organization or whatever. And they have to do a total workflow in a total different way. And we are going to sit behind the scenes, build it, and then drop it. It doesn't work. You need them in. Like I was needed in the construction moment of my kitchen, when I am building a solution for them, they know how to use it under your fingertips. They know what it has to do to achieve the objectives. They know where the gain is. So this is really important. And one thing on the bottom is, what I still notice a lot, is when you talk to people, you interpret. But most people don't check back. And they start to build and then deliver. And then the end user is unhappily surprised. So here are the causes of the problems, written down like the reactor bees, these problems and these problems as well. So what happened is that there were solutions written down. And when you look at those bullets, this is what you see somehow back in almost every Agile method. Let's say the methods that were present during the writing of the Agile Manifesto in February 2001. Here you see short delivery cycles. So what we do is when I work in an Agile way, I have weekly sessions with the whole team. Still come back to the whole team, but with the whole team. It's not about a meeting, and it's by definition not about an ineffective meeting like someone said today. It's a facilitated session. I have certified facilitators there, and they do every single session for me. A certified professional facilitator, certified by the IAF. Every week I have a session. We check, we double check. The prototyping is evolving from maybe a piece of paper into a shippable product in the end. And they are there every week to check and to refine. I bring the end users in because when we have, let's say, user stories or what kind of method you use to describe what the solution should do, you build it and you need the right people to check it. So I have my end users in there because they will know what to do. I do sometimes project when I have, my last project I delivered at the end of September, there were 8 clearly defined different user groups from the same solution, sharing the same solution together in a workflow. And from every single user group, there was a person representing the whole user group in the project, being there at the session every single week to make sure that all the information was there. And then we go prototyping. We don't talk too much. We start building and then we evolve the prototype into the final solution. Continuous testing. When you have your end users available, I saw a piece about testing earlier today as well. Now, my end users are not testers, so they don't know how to test a solution. They do know, does it work for me? So there's a little extra effort in there for testing as well, but there's this very, very big chunk of work done by the end users in the team, so responsible in the team, testing, reviewing, and testing and then validating. Did the programmer understand what I say? Did he interpret right? Also, the verification. Do we achieve the business objectives? And maybe also in the traditional testing, finding software bugs. And the continuous selection. Now, how can you select which functionality to deliver and which functionality not? How do you prioritize? Who does prioritize in Agile projects? Which will? The product owner. Okay. Yeah, and how do you prioritize? Just by saying, hey, this is what I like the most? Yes, business value. I use Moscow. I don't know if you know. Who knows Moscow? Must have, should have, could have, won't have. The very important one, the won't haves, the blue part and the yellow part of the pie chart. Okay. This is what still happens. When I was in Salt Lake, we had park bench sessions, and you could just sit down, the authors of the manifesto around the building, and then people could drop in and ask questions. And these problems came back again. We still run over time. I have people say, sprint after sprint after sprint, and it doesn't end. How come? When it's over time, very often it's over budget as well. How come? Solution is not accepted by the end user population. So, okay, we have maybe a brilliant solution, but you will never achieve your business objectives. Okay, so we still have the same error as an organization we had before the project. Because we didn't, that's because it's not accepted. And also, because we don't have them in our teams good enough, we don't deliver what the business really needs. So we have a kitchen built the wrong way. It might look like a kitchen, it might even function like a kitchen, but it's not the kitchen the end user wants. Also, who has ever run into the idea, Agile is quick and dirty? Yeah. Talk to a financial controller of an organization, this is the one thing he will say, quick and dirty. I have some definitions, from my reference framework, I will share with you in a moment. The other one is that people do what they like. We do Agile, so we do what we like. Well, not from my perspective, I think we should do what the business needs, but that's something else. And dropping stuff all the time. Instead of, aligning a go live with the moment that the business needs. I have a lot of deliveries connected to implementation of new laws. So you have fixed dates where you have to be ready. Good. My definition of Agile is this one. So it's not about IT, what you read here. It's about a solution. It's serving the business by being adaptive. What I mean here is we have a business objective we achieve, we strive for. The one that I just mentioned was the fines, because we do not live up to our service level agreement, decreased by less by 80%. That's very smart. Another one I had was the average length of a call at the help desk of a governmental organization, getting 2,400 calls a day. The average call was 9 minutes. Had to be reduced to 3 minutes or less by the solution. And as you can imagine, this solution contains a lot of ideas. This is the definition of a successful project, from my point of view, which means that you cannot say when you deliver it, we have a successful project. After 3 months, or after 6 months, or after a year, then you have your KPIs, and you have to look into the organization and ask yourself the question, did we achieve the objectives that we had stated and written down for this project? Are we indeed, the fines decreased by 80%? Yes, is the average call, the length of the call from 9 minutes to 3 minutes or less? You have to measure. And then you have, for me, from my point of view, a successful project. I think the solutions are still the same. And I think Agile, sometimes when I talk, people say, you dislike the traditional way of working, like waterfall. Who has ever worked waterfall? Okay, a lot of people. Good. I don't dislike waterfall, but I think when we make IT solutions, when you make stuff that is working under people's fingertips, it's impossible to specify months ahead, for what should be delivered after half a year or a year. I think it doesn't work that way, because people have new insights. The market changes, the competitors change, the law changes. You have to embed the change as a fact of life into your way of working. And waterfall, we have a request for change. The fact that there is an expression for it is terrifying. Change is a fact of life, and I think the right Agile process is a process that is ready for any kind of change, because it's the way it works. Good. Oh, that's a nice color. It's not. This is how I see the Agile domain. And when we talk about IT project, the red triangle is here. Nowadays, I think 98% of the project is done with Scrum. Scrum is also focused on the production of software. So what we also have is, the work around the software, and it has to be aligned, including, preparing a full end-user organization for the implementation. I use myself DSDM. Who has ever heard of DSDM? Maybe in Belgium? Yeah. I know there's a pretty nice DSDM community there as well. DSDM is a very holistic method. I'm not going to explain the whole method here, but it covers everything else also. This is the life cycle. And when we talk Scrum, let's say that at the end of foundations, the orange part, there we have your backlog. So DSDM facilitates an agile process to get very speedy, but high quality and good acceptance by the end user community to create a product backlog and go into your Scrums in what's here called exploration and engineering. And the deployment is just the delivery and the go live and the training and that kind of stuff. This is a very important one, because when I say go to an accepted product backlog, realize that in what's here called feasibility and foundations. This is from the early beginning. In the feasibility we define the SMART objective. I'm not going to define this for the end user community. I need them in with the client, let's say the manager or the chief executive officer who I'm working for. And I want them together to draw the conclusion of the SMART objective they strive for with this project. This is why I need a real good facilitator. I have a couple of sessions. The feasibility might take like a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe. Foundations, a couple of weeks, and then we have a couple of sessions. We have an early prototype, and we know which business area we're in. We have the functionality written down in user stories or any other type of notation you like, or a prototype, and we go into the Scrums for the delivery. In the Scrums, the exploration and engineering here, there's the evolving prototype with the weekly sessions I was talking about. So imagine doing feasibility. I have done projects like, let's say, 6 months, 5 deliveries. A month until the product backlog, and then I have a couple of months, every single month I have a delivery. 4 times, 5 times. Last one I had 3 deliveries. This is what I try to do as much. And then you have 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then the project's done. We have the solution ready for the organization to make sure that you can achieve the SMART business objective, because this is what we are working for. And now we have the team. When we talk about the team, this is what we need. And when you look at this, because it's not just the Scrum Master, he or she is in there, but also in here is the end user. It's not just one. They add a little to the business objectives, but if you miss them, you can do without. So when you're in a time squeeze, you can leave something out. That's the next one. Time boxing. Okay, we have a month, the time box, a sprint of a month, and when we have something extra coming in, like the Excel from else, then we make a choice. And when you look at this one, on top of the two triangles over here, it shows that the traditional way, let's say the waterfall way, there we vary money and time. When we have extra functionality, we have a steering committee and we try to find extra money and extra time. When you do it this way with Moscow and time boxing, when we have something coming into the project, we make a choice on getting something out again. So we vary on the features, on the user stories, not on time and not on money. Now, to be able to do this, to get to a smart definition, to a real smart definition, accepted by everyone, very reliable, not just made up, but really reliable. Really nice models and visuals made to make sure that we understand each other when we are communicating, because after all, Agile is just an interaction model. That's all it is. Very important one. We have iterations and reviews. We do Moscow and we make priorities. We do time boxing and we make decisions on what to do and what not to do. We need real, strong, facilitated workshops. When you have a real good facilitator in your team, and this woman or man is independent regarding the content and just facilitating the process, making sure that there is a decision, making sure that there is a choice, making sure that there is an acceptance. That's all. Then you have something that's really valuable in your team. You avoid arguments and you avoid people in the team disconnected. You have everyone in place and everyone accepting, the solutions and decisions. When you talk about this whole stuff, when I said that I came back to reoccurring errors. I don't know about you if you recognize them, but I still hear those coming back. And I was very much surprised when I was in Salt Lake City last year that people were especially mentioning the top two. The top two are so important. I think we in Agile, we have a solution. Maybe you can apply it in your own way within your own community, but this is what we have. Those techniques are so important. And what I would like to give to you is the idea that when you talk about a team, make sure that everyone feels the objectives, that everyone feels responsible. And I know there are things to think about, but what do you do when you take on a project for a fixed price and you say to your client, hey, but I need your people in my team because they are responsible for defining the functionality. Then your client might say, oh, that's a nice one. Then, okay, you are doing a project, I'm paying you money and you need my people. And then my answer is yes. It's a funny thing, when I was in the early years of my career, I was dealing with Atos, at the time sort of predecessor of Atos. And I had a manager and he said, okay, Arie, which area would you like to specialize in? I said, what do you mean? I was a programmer at the time. I said, what do you mean by specializing? Oh, which area? Is it like tax or banking or insurances or, so what do you mean? Well, you have to, specialize in how the insurance business works. Then you can be a real good programmer and designer. Now imagine this. Here you are in the Netherlands, working 40 hours a week or more. You're programming, and then you have to specialize, maybe in those same 40 hours a week, in programming, and then you have to be as good as an end user, who has his or her own job 40 hours a week. You can never be as good as the end user itself. Don't try to be. Get them in. Get them involved. And make sure that you have the right people with the right knowledge, accepted by their colleagues. And they'll say, okay, when you want this person, this is the one who we trust. He or she will know what to do and how the solution should work. It's there. It's in the Agile methods, it's there. You have to dig in. DSDM has it, all the methods has it. But it's so important, the second bullet over here, that you have really the right people. When you have someone facilitating your session, and it's a bad facilitator, it ruins your project. When you have not the right end-user representatives in your team, their outcome will not be accepted by the client, by the department, by the whole company who wants to work, and you will not achieve your business objectives. Now, it has been done, it's still done, just to get it at the proper Agile platforms, I always say, and I was very happy with Adrian talking about sharing and innovating. This is the way that DSDM is created and still evolving. This is the way Agile was created, so I hope you are here in Cluj, but in other places as well, like this is like a nice amount of people. You're all here, stay in this connection, share together. And one thing we are working at the moment on a live video sort of conference where we're trying to connect different locations, and I think Sweden, the UK, the Netherlands, Belgium, and I hope Romania as well, Poland maybe even. There we have local speakers in a room like this, and try to connect speakers from the other countries so you can enjoy in a very easy way international speakers. Because I like international speakers. Sorry. Okay. When you download, if you like, the presentation, you will find the IAF is the link for facilitators. It's the International Association for Facilitators. AgileConsortium.net is the Agile community in the Netherlands, Belgium, connecting to the UK and Sweden as well. It's under construction, but we're working on it. DSDM.org is there, a lot of information is there, etc. So, and this is the last slide of my presentation. This is the name of the company I work with. And it's for a reason. People make a difference. Agile is an interaction model. Hey, we have some phases and some products and we have some activities and we have the same names. That's easier. We have standardized this all. This is nice. But it's an interaction model. Focus on the interaction. Face-to-face communication, as much effective sessions, not ineffective meetings, but effective sessions. Make sure that people are there, can look each other in the eye and feel shared responsibility in the team with the end users. So important. And striving for an objective, not people fighting over here. I want this functionality. No, I want this. Because we have Moscow, and we do it by the book, Moscow, and then we have a decision. Then you need the right people. People make the difference. Thank you.
Very much, Arie. If there are questions, if you want to take questions, yeah, you still have 10 minutes. So if there are questions.
What happens if you're working as a supplier and you don't have any direct involvement in owning the user stories, and you can't really involve an end user in your Scrum team? Of course, the product owners might do that, but they would just come to the Scrum team with a list of user stories with a product backlog. How do you ensure that that gives value to the end user?
That's difficult. It is. And I think the one thing we do too easily, we have our profession, and we know what's really good to do. And I think the one way you should follow is go and sit down with your customer and look for the opportunities to meet. One of the things you have where you have this situation is in nearshoring and offshoring projects, of course. Video conference, hey, it's not an optimum, but it helps. Especially when people can look at each other, see each other, know each other, sound the voice, look on the face, have not just the words, but also the other lines of communication. And what I know is that our organization, ISDC, is represented here, and I know they did a project for a bank in the Netherlands. I hope I say this the right way. And what they did is they brought people from the bank, so let's say the representatives from the business, because that's what we're talking about, over here to Cluj. To do especially the first part of the project, to make sure we have a shared smart objective, that there is a product backlog we really understand and we all share, we are committed to. So it takes time. And a little extra answer in here is, I do a lot of these projects. And very often my client says, not even nearshore or offshore, they say, my people are so busy. This is, every week 2 or 3 hours, no, we can't miss it. So let's do it differently. And the project I was talking about, I delivered in the end of September. We had in the second delivery a lot of quality issues. And then the quality from the perception of the end user community. It didn't do what they needed. And it was very simple because they hadn't reviewed the prototype. They hadn't taken the time to do it. And then when they hadn't seen the solution, they didn't accept the solution. That's what we talked about. And when we did the final evaluation of the project, I asked everyone, okay, so you didn't want to participate in the sessions because it cost you a lot of time. Now, to make sure that we brought the whole solution back to the right level of quality, we put in a lot of extra time. I think when we had done it, from day one, weekly sessions, 9 to 12, Tuesday morning, we would have saved a lot of time. And the answer was unanimous by everyone. Yes, we would have saved a lot of time. Now the problem is, you can only prove this at the end of your project. And you have to convince someone in the beginning of the project. And that's a difficult one. But I think when you're starting a project in general, there's a lot to gain when you put a lot of time in the beginning of the project, in the start. Make sure you have all your arrangement around this area, the right people in the right role, available for the right amount of time at the right moment.
How do you handle somebody that didn't do pretty well with the smart thing because they have an idea, it's a good one, it's with the business, I'm talking with the end user, let's say, but the idea is very vague at the beginning and it starts to clear as we develop. And we do this circling, so we have regular meetings, we show prototypes and everything, but this still pushes the deadline, the cost and everything, because it was not clear. So, and usually, not always, when you start a project, you have a very clear perspective on what's going to be in there.
Okay. I think that's another one we as professionals should take care of, is that we have a smart objective before we do anything else. And I try to, I like to agree. So here I got into this project, and they said, can you take over this one because someone else was busy? And here's the smart objective. And the smart objective was, we need a new and modern system. Done. Okay, let's go downtown, all buy an iPhone 5, and we all have a new and modern system. Well done. No, that's not what we mean. No, of course that's not. But what do you mean then? And what we found out is that this was a governmental organization responsible for counting plants and animals in rural areas. And the counting was done by hand. And then they came, the 1st of October, back from the field, because they were in the field really counting, they were writing them. And then they were, putting their administration into a system. And what they would like to do was, putting the information straight away into a handheld mobile device, so that on the 1st of October they could start working with the content instead of, doing the administration. And when you find it out, it needs time. It takes maybe a couple of hours in a session, and just, digging into, and as a business analyst, taking some time. And don't take yes for an answer. Digging in, digging in, digging in. So also, this is a skill, digging in, as an analyst. Asking questions over and over again, not accepting until it's smart and we agree. So, again, the right people in the right role. Is that answer? Yeah, okay.
How did you came to the idea of the facilitator? What was the, let's say, the initial code that made you think that such a role is necessary? And if from your experience there is a certain size of the project that's where you need such a facilitator?
Yeah, when you have a real good facilitator, it saves you money. But again, it can only be proven in the end. And in the beginning you have to convince people, hey, we need a facilitator in here. When I did my very, very, very first rapid application development pilot project in 1994 with the Royal Navy, in the book of James Martin it says we need a workshop leader. and I hadn't got a clue what a workshop leader was. So I said, I'll do it. And I did it, and trying to dig into this role as much as I could. And then I think it was in 1997 that we were already doing certification and exam events for DSDM Foundation and Practitioner, that kind of stuff. And then the IAF, the International Association for Facilitators, approached us to develop an assessment process for them. And then I got into the IAF itself. And I'm since 1998 an assessor for the IAF as well. The IAF is Assessments International. So yeah, and it was in the book from James Martin, and you saw it at the we call it the snowman, where you have all the roles in the team. There's a facilitator, workshop facilitator in there as well. Yeah. The thing is, and it's not about facilitation today, but the thing is that a real good facilitator has no interest in content. He or she has an interest in doing the right thing, the right time, the right moment in the project. And making sure that the decisions are made, choices are made, reviews are made, and that kind of stuff. He or she doesn't care what the review says, as long as it's done properly. Okay? Is that an answer to your question? Who else?
I heard a rumor last year that it became Agile development, but it was this close to being another word that you guys were going to use, namely adaptive. Is that true?
Adaptive is the method from Jim Highsmith, who is one of the authors of the Agile Manifesto.
Okay, because I was just curious why you chose this word.
Oh, sorry, that's the question. Well,
yeah.
the reason we did not make a choice for adaptive because it was the name of the method of Jim. Okay. So we were sitting there, and the first one we were thinking about was flexible, and then you would all be flexibilists. Now you're all agilists, right? So yeah, we were just, and I remember that it was as hot as it is here. And very small, 17 guys, didn't smell nice at the end of the day, I can tell you. We had a debate because it was an agile airplane at the time. It was really agile flying. I remember that one being part of the discussion. Oh yeah, let's call it agile. That's what happened.
I think this is the last question.
The last question?
Yeah.
I have time. Not going anywhere.
What happens if the right people worry about at the beginning of the project and you discover throughout the project that the user story are not written or it do not have the business value or the prioritization that you would need? Practically, do you get to say to the client, do your work, or what happens?
Yeah, well, okay, now what again, I think it's very, Agile is not able to do what we like. Agile, for me, is a very disciplined process. It's a disciplined interaction model where we have our sessions with the right people at the right done techniques like Moscow and time boxing done really in the proper way. So I invest a lot of time in the beginning of the project. First with my client, who is the business owner of what's going to happen. Very often he or she is not product owner or not, by definition not an end user. They have the money and they have the business pain. Very often it's pain. Or they have the opportunity. They see an opportunity. I spend a lot of time. And I say, hey, I can do this for you. But I need something in return. And I can do it fixed price. And I can do it I can do it in chunks of every phase in this model. I can do a fixed price, I can do the whole thing in a fixed price. But I need something, when you really want good quality, I need something back from you. So how important is this project for you? And I need your people. So you can imagine what happens. First session, 9 o'clock, everyone's there. Second session, 9 o'clock, 1 of 6 end users is there. 9:15, I heard Eric was talking about how much money does it cost. Still 1 of 6 end users was there. So I thought, okay, I can wait. But hey, I'm Dutch, so I'm allowed to be blunt. And I sent the team home. And I'm going back to my desk. No, I want you to go home. This is your day for this project. This day is ruined. I want you to go home. Okay, off the way. And then I took my bag, and my business owner was also a big guy, and he had an office with a meeting table, and then next to the door there was this small window from the ceiling to the floor. And I took a chair and I was sitting on down the hallway so that he could see me through that window. And after 15 minutes, he stopped his meeting. He said, "No, his face must be there for a reason." And I said, "Hey, I sent my team home." "Why?" I said, "Well, your people aren't there." "Yeah, but they were busy." "Okay, that's cool. But then, okay, you have to make a choice. This is a delay. Because, finding agendas again, matching for a session with this whole group will cost a week. So you have a week delay, and I can tell you your supplier wants to be paid for this week, so you have an issue. And funny as it seems, all the sessions afterwards, everyone was there. So, being blunt helps sometimes, yeah. I always have my excuse, hey, I'm blonde, I'm from the Netherlands, I have good clocks, so I'm allowed to be blonde.
Still time for another question.
Okay.
You did mention that you have worked a lot for governments, and you mentioned about fixed price, and that you can convince a customer working in a fixed price and still in an agile manner. What happens when they do come with a big pile of requirements, but they still want a fixed price? How do you approach it in this situation?
Okay, there are a number of ways you can do it. In business, because I think the way people have requirements and they throw this big pile of paper on your table, or there's nothing at all there, and you have to get it out. First, I think the true Agile way, and I've done projects in this way, the true Agile way, when you have my definition of Agile is serving the business by being adaptive. And when you have a real successful project, is the project where you deliver the solution with it would help you achieving the business objectives. I say to my client, okay, normally, this project might cost, I would charge 100,000 euros, but for this, I'll charge you only 60. But then every 3 months, on certain KPIs connected to the business objective, we will measure. And half of the profit is mine. You're already making profit, you're happy. And I did the project this way. And I can tell you, you have delivered your project, you have sent your invoice, and then after 3 months, another invoice, and after 3 months, another invoice, because it works. That's why. We have a problem in the Netherlands, and I think it's a European Union issue, that when you have governmental projects above, let's say, 196,000 euros, I think it is, it has to be on a formal website. And people can make an offer. Organizations can make an offer. It's a total different situation there, because then most governmental organizations, okay, then we have a requirements list posted on this website. So when you say these requirements will cost 200,000 euros, we want these requirements to be delivered. And then we are back. Then we are back to this one. So we have an issue over there. So I always try to make sure that we do the first part, which is a small part, fixed price as well. Then we have the right backlog. And then the next step, ideally, would be working with the two triangles I showed, where you make a choice with Moscow on which functionality. When you put something new in, something else comes out. That's what you do. Again, you have make strong agreements on those kind of processes in your project. Because they are used to, hey, this is the list of requirements, so this is what I'm going to get. No, this is a nice starting point. We have a prototype, and we have new insights, and after new insights and by delivery, it's different from what's there. But it does the job, and it helps you achieve your objectives. So there's a lot of time at the beginning of the project to make agreements on how to work together. One more question? Yeah, sure. I overlooked. Sorry, lady.
How can you identify what is the difference between having a clarification or more detailed information for a user story or a change that forces something to get out?
Let me see if I understand this question right. You want examples of things that come in and how you make sure that other things go out? Rephrase it for me.
You have a bunch of requirements,
Yep.
and you're saying, okay, this is my time box.
Yep.
And the user comes with extra information,
Yep.
and he's saying that this is more details to what he already gave you, but you're saying this is a change, and something that has to go out.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Okay, how it works for me is in general, and it covers this event as well. I design my time boxes. I call them time boxes. It's currently we call them sprints. I design my time boxes on a set of must-haves, should-haves, and could-haves. And the must-haves are most likely 25 to 30% of the total sprint. And the must-have is a must-have. So every time box, by definition, we deliver the must-haves. That's what we do. They're always there. The moment something else comes in, then we vary on the other functionality. So a could-have might be taken out, should-have can be taken out. That's what happens. So in general, when they bring new extra information, because we work on estimates, we estimate. And what's the one thing we know from an estimate? It's wrong. Yeah, it's wrong. And that's no problem, because we have the time boxing Moscow mechanism. When you have a nice range and you design it well, I never fail to deliver my must-haves. And then you can say, hey, you have a real strong margin, but it works this way. So the estimation is wrong, that's what we know, and being able to drop some functionality in every sprint or time box, that's what helps me to make sure that I can deliver on time what's really needed to do the job. And it's the same thing when having new information or just discovering, oh, this is more complex than I ever thought. Might be also in there. So every and also else with your spreadsheet is also covered. Yeah? Answer to your question?
Okay. Thank you very much, Arie. Thank you for your question.